So when you launch QGIS, especially for your first time, it looks overwhelming, right? Well, I got your back. The purpose of this video is to introduce QGIS UI. So let's get to it. First off, we're going to start with the title bar. It's located at the very top here and it displays the title of the project you are working on. At the moment, this untitled project, that's because we've not given our project a title. So in future, when you have a project title, it will be shown here. Next is the menu bar. Now we have all of these menus from project all the way to help. Now under the project, basically it gives you tools to manage projects like creating a new project, opening existing ones, closing projects and saving them, including opening the project properties, and then you can create print layouts or reports. You can also exit the software by coming to exit QGIS or Ctrl+Q. Next, let's talk about edit. Under the edit, we have tools like the redo and undo, copy paste features, and once we start working with real data, all of this will become available for use depending on what we are doing. So basically anything that has to do with edit, we come right to the edit menu. Next on the list is view. View is very important because it controls whatever that you see on the screen and how you even move around. So you can create new map views, you can pan around, you can zoom in, zoom out, and we have advanced zooming features right here. You can also do cool stuff like basic measurements and identify features, as well as control what you see on the map by coming to layer visibility. You can control panels and toolbars, and we'll talk about this in just a bit. For the meantime, let's talk about layer. Under the layer menu, we have tools like data source management. Now remember, the basis of data is layers, so all of our data is going to be in layers, and we can always access them by going to data source manager. We can create new layers or add existing layers. We can also do stuff like georeferencing. If you don't see georeferencer under layer, you'll probably find it under raster. It's just software difference. But you can also do cool stuff like copy paste layers, you can toggle editing, and all of this will make sense pretty soon. Just know everything that has to do with working with layers, adding or removing, we have to do it under the layer menu. Next on the list, settings. Settings is where you come to modify the interface, or you come to change core features on the software and create new profiles. You can work around, you can play around with your style manager, and you can look up and change some key keyboard shortcuts as per your liking. Let's talk about plugins. Plugins are very important because they are like add-ons that you use to perform certain specific functions or make your work easy. Upon installing, you have these default plugins that comes with it. You can either check or uncheck depending on what you want to see. Later on, we see how you can install new plugins and work with them. Next is vector. Now GIS have two basic data types, so we have vector and raster. Now when you input vector data, this way you have to come to do any processing that works around vector. You see, we have the geoprocessing tools, geometry tools, analysis tools, research and data management tools, and we'll be taking on these one after the other as we go. So under the raster is where we come to perform raster related analysis. You see, we can access the raster calculator here, and we can perform analysis such as aspect, node data, all the way to slope, etc. We also have the projections, we have miscellaneous, extraction, conversion, and align rasters. You know, this will vary depending on what plugins you have available. And then we have database. If you have some databases that you want to extract data or write data to, you can come and do that using the database manager. Now let's talk about web. The web is for web services, so you can get help from coming here, or when you install web related plugins, you can access them through the web and do other stuff. And next is mesh. So basically mesh are unstructured grids, so you come to mesh to work with them. You see we have the mesh calculator here, and then if you have some mesh data that you are working on, you can do a lot by coming to mesh. Then we have processing. So under the processing, we have the toolbox, and this is very important. If you click on it, you see it appears right here, and this is where all the tools that we need to do analysis are housed. So we just have to come here to access every single tool that you need. If you don't see this, you just come to processing and click toolbox. Other stuff to consider is the model designer, history and results viewer. Our next step is help. So what does help do? It gives you help. So you can come here to access your contents. You can check out the documentations. In case you encounter an issue, you can report it through help and get involved or route to the home page of the project, as well as check what version you are on. So you see, when I click on about, it gives you information regarding the software version and other vital information. Alright, now let's talk about our next important thing, which is the toolbar. All of these tools you see in here are collectively the toolbar, and they are grouped and it's not haphazard. So you can see that when you hover at the beginning, they give you the name of the toolbar. So we have the project toolbar here, we have the map navigation toolbar in that order. This gives you a very handy way of getting access to some important tools, and what you can do is hover on any of these and it will give you the name and you have an idea of what it does. So we have the new print layout, we have save project, open project, we have new project, etc. You can stand on any of them and it will give you the name. Now what you can also do here is you can pick and drop these tools anywhere. So depending on how you want them to be laid out for your comfort and efficiency, you can just play around with them. Now all of these tools have their specific use and it will depend on what we are doing, right? So we use this to work on projects, and this for navigation. We use this for selection and stuff. And this is the attributes toolbar, which we use to work with attribute data. We use the data source manager to create or add layers to the map, and over here we have the digitizing tool, which is used when we're working with vector data, etc, etc. Now let's talk about panels. Panels are basically widgets, right, that help you to perform even advanced functions. Now browser is a panel, as well as layers, including processing toolbox. All of these are panels. One thing about them also is that you can pick it up and drop it anywhere. You can stack them on top of one another, or you can just split them depending on your liking. And you can adjust the height as well as how wide it should be. Briefly, the browser panel gives you access to your drives, your local drives, where you can access your data. So it depends on where you have your data stored. You can just navigate to the directory and get them in. Aside that, we have other provisions, and this gives access to web maps and databases that you can also access data from. Now the layers panel. The layers panel, remember when we talked about layers here, you use it to add layers. Now when you add any data, they are going to appear right under the layers panel, and then you can pick it up from there. So in our next video, we are going to see how we can add data and work with it. So when we add them up, they'll all appear right here, and we see what we can do with them. Now let's talk about the processing toolbox. You come here to get access to all of the tools that you need, and they are categorized, and they have a very good structure and allows you to be able to easily get to whichever tool you want. So we have the 3D tiles here, cartographics related databases, GPS, and you can see we have both raster and vector categories here, and it's still being broken down to give you an easy way of accessing them. And also importantly, you can see we have GDAL and GRAS that are integrated into the QGIS. So this gives you access to more and very useful tools. And what you can do is use the search box here, so you can use it to search for any tool that you want. Now let's talk about the recent projects. Recent projects, when you start working, you create new projects, additional projects, they all appear here for you to easily get them restored and work on. And you can also close this or open it anytime by just hovering over the edge and dragging. If you want to start a new project, all you have to do is double click on new project. Just to point out, we have EPSG 4326 WGS84. This is the coordinate reference system by default for every new project that you create. Now this can be modified later in where you get right settings. When you double click, we are going to have this white area shown, and this is called the map view. So now remember, when we add data from the browser panel, it shows up under the layers panel, and it will be rendered right here, the map view. Now last on the list, we talk about the status bar. Now the status bar, to the far left, we have locator. This is where you come to do search for actions, search for settings, and also features. And next to that, we have the coordinates. This gives you, as you can see, changes how I move. So it gives you the coordinates to wherever you point at, and Next, we have the scale. This gives you, yes, the current scale view. Next, we have the magnifier, and this is very important for maybe wide screens. So you want to make sure you are able to see certain features at certain zoom levels, so you can play around with your magnifier. At the moment, it's 100%, and that's the default. So no need changing this, unless of course you need to. Then we have the rotation, and you use this to rotate the map content however you want, and for whatever reason. Then we have the render. Once it is checked, everything you do here will render in real time, and once you uncheck it, it simply sends you to a freeze mode. It freezes everything. Next is the coordinate system. Now this is the reference system for default projects, and it tells you what coordinate reference system your project is in. And lastly, we have the messages. So this shows you information about your plugins and other relevant information, including when you perform analysis and you need to get results and all of that. So this has been a very brief introduction to the overview of QGIS interface, and in our next video we are going to import data and see how we can start working with it. For the meantime, stay blessed.